Coming up, the stories of the survivors of the Sullivan County tornado and how the community is coming together to move forward.
At least 20 tornadoes touched down in Indiana within a few hours on Friday. We'll give you a view from the air to the damage to Whiteland and other areas around Bloomington.
And round 2 of tornado warnings hit us on Wednesday with a strong line of storms that looked fierce on the radar. We'll tell you how this storm compared to the first one. IU NewsNet starts now. March ended and April began with the sound of sirens. Tornadoes and strong winds have swept across Indiana. Hello and welcome back to IU NewsNet. I'm Lucy Kellison.
And I'm Ashton Hackman. At least 20 tornadoes swept across the state in last week's historic outbreak. And yesterday brought another round of damaging storms and heavy rain. We have team coverage of the historic tornado outbreak, but first we show you where all the tornadoes have hit. The storms entered western Indiana just shortly after 10 Friday night. The first major tornado struck the small town of Sullivan just south of Terre Haute. An EF3 tornado, packing winds of up to 155 miles per hour, moved through the town, flattening homes and throwing cars dozens of yards away. As the storm continued east, more tornadoes formed, including another EF3 tornado in eastern Owen County. McCormick's Creek State Park took a direct hit from the EF3 twister. 2 campers were killed as it lifted farther to the east. Just a few short minutes later, another tornado touched down, this time just south of Martinsville. The EF2 tornado hit the city with winds of up to 130 miles per hour, uprooting trees and damaging homes. The tornado stayed on the ground for 9 miles before it lifted near the county line. One of the last few major tornadoes of the system caused significant damage to the town of Whiteland, just south of Greenwood. The EF3 tornado destroyed neighborhoods before strengthening as it moved to the east. This warehouse was decimated with one last punch before the tornado lifted to the east of I-65. The storm that swept through Indiana Wednesday was not nearly as strong, but the winds still toppled semis on I-65. The storm took down trees near Brownsburg and Zionsville. It also took out power to more than 1,000 people. And here in Bloomington, there was no severe damage from the storms, but a lightning strike did set a duplex on fire on the city's east side. Bloomington Fire was able to make it on scene and put out the blaze. Luckily, no one was injured. As we mentioned, the most destructive of the tornadoes to hit Indiana tore through Sullivan Friday night, 55 miles to the west of Bloomington. The town is almost unrecognizable. IU NewsNet's Liz DeSantis went there the morning after the late night tornado. Liz, what was it like?
It was surreal, and really, you have to see it to understand it. 3 people in Sullivan died, and others lost everything they own. But they say they still feel grateful to be alive.
All is quiet in Sullivan, but it's far from peaceful.
Right? I mean, it's absolute carnage. You're seeing things here that you'd see in a movie.
The nighttime tornado killed 3 people and changed survivors forever.
I'm just totally devastated and traumatized. There's no words to describe what I feel. I'm numb. I'm thankful to be alive, but we've lost everything in a split second.
Yesterday, this kitchen had 4 walls and a ceiling. And today, the contents are just strewed all over the yard. The remnants of lives are laid bare for all to see. A prized collection of baseball cards, toys, baby pictures caked in mud, and dreams gone in an instant.
Yeah, this was my house. That's the saddest part about it too. Is I just bought this a year ago.
The tornado came through like a freight train.
I didn't know if it was going to take the house and me with it, or collapse on top of me.
Once we saw the storm and how potent it was, we upgraded that tornado warning to what we call a higher end version. It's called a considerable tornado.
An EF3 with up to 155 mile per hour winds.
We had no warning, no time to get shelter really. I got them to the bathroom and within seconds it hit us. We're just lucky to be alive.
Governor Eric Holcomb toured Sullivan Saturday and declared a state of emergency.
I had full confidence that even after the dark storm, there will be light again.
More than 1,000 volunteers have already arrived in Sullivan to help with cleanup.
We're going to need your help months from now. We're going to need your help years from now.
It's going to take a miracle. We've lost everything. This was once a very big, neighborhood full of people, caring people, and we have nothing.
Yesterday, with the tornado warnings across the state, residents of the south side of Sullivan were rushing to tarp their damaged houses and gather any belongings left behind before the new line of potential storms.
Such heartbreaking images out of that small community. How can people come together to help Sullivan?
Yeah, so really there already was just such an outpouring of support. Salvation Army, Red Cross, and more than 1,000 volunteers over the weekend showed up to help. And so the mayor actually right now is calling for no more perishable goods because they just don't have a place to store them.
So other than perishable goods, what can we donate to the town of Sullivan?
So really, actually, there is a need right now for plastic storage tubs because residents need a place to be able to gather their belongings and gather some of these food and clothes donations they've already been given.
All right, thank you so much, Liz. When tornado sirens go off and you get an IU notify, do IU students take it seriously? Do they take shelter? IU NewsNet's Lucinda Larnock went out to ask some of them.
And I'm from northern Indiana, so tornadoes aren't a surprise to me. I wasn't really affected. I kind of just stayed where I was at. My room's in the basement, so I was in there. My roommates actually were like, "Oh my gosh, we gotta get to the basement." I was like, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal.
I think at first we were all a little freaked out because we weren't expecting it, but other than that, we were fine. We just stayed in shelter.
I was working over at Kilroy's, and we didn't have a lot of customers, I think probably because of the tornado warning, so we all just kind of stayed inside. We kind of took a lot of our equipment back inside because it was probably going to be dangerous, but couldn't really do anything.
I was at the bar with my parents actually because they were here for Parents Weekend, and we were sitting at a table that was right in front of a bunch of windows, and they had it it was like the garage door, and they had it open, and then they closed the garage door, but other than that we did nothing.
Sirens can warn people quickly to take shelter. However, IU Notify can take 5 minutes to get to your phone from the time IU sends it.
When it comes to tornadoes, it's crucial to know the signs of when to take shelter. Cody Kirkpatrick is an Earth and Atmospheric Science professor here at IU. He's made it his mission to live tweet every extreme weather event that occurs. He made it his work cut out for him on Friday. Using satellites and radar, Kirkpatrick accurately predicted the tornado would head north of Bloomington. Kirkpatrick says that a tornado needs certain ingredients like a rise in humidity, abnormally high temperatures, and wind that makes fast-moving clouds.
Difference, say, between a tornado watch and a tornado warning, like brownies. Like a brownie watch is when you have all of the ingredients laid out on the kitchen counter. But a brownie warning is when the pan is in the oven. Everything has been mixed together in just the right combination. And here in 5 or 10 minutes, you could very well have a very tasty brownie.
When it comes to this week's storm and every serious storm, Kirkpatrick's advice always remains the same. When in doubt, stay indoors and stay away from windows. Lots of students already follow him on Twitter at Cody Kirkpatrick.
When we come back, conditions at the Monroe County Jail are so bad that one group calls them inhumane. Coming up, the first in a series of special reports about what some people call a crisis.
And people who support the LGBTQ+ community hosted a vocal anti-hate rally. We'll take you there.
When I say trans, you say joy. Trans. Trans. All right, this is a rally. I need y'all to make some noise up in here.
A local group called Protect Our People hosted a rally last weekend and the turnout was huge. The issue? 2 Indiana bills that say they trample on the rights of the LGBTQ+ community. House Bill 1608 would ban schools from teaching human sexuality to any students in 3rd grade or younger. It would also require permission from parents to allow a student to go by a different name or pronoun. Senate Bill 480 would ban all gender-affirming care. The bill passed in legislature last week and Governor Holcomb signed it into law on Wednesday. Sunday's events was in protest of the bill, but also to promote trans joy and celebration.
I know that there are trans people all around us. They're in our government, they're in our entertainment, they're in our schools, they're in our religious institutions. You cannot erase people who are there.
Starting on July 1st, transgender youth under the age of 18 will be blocked from hormone therapies or surgeries. Those currently taking medication to transition will have to stop by the end of the year.
What started with the report of a man with a gun ended in dramatic fashion, and we caught it on camera. Take a look. This was where a chase ended at Bloomfield and Welmer Road on Sunday evening. It started when a Monroe County deputy pulled over a driver and saw a semi-automatic gun in the passenger seat. When another officer arrived, they say he refused orders to get out of the vehicle and drove off instead. What followed was a high-speed chase that ended when the driver hit a curb. Officers used pepper balls to remove him from the vehicle. The suspect is Randy Francis, and he faces charges of resisting law enforcement and disorderly conduct.
The conditions at the Monroe County Jail are bad and getting worse. That's the opinion of even the new sheriff.
IU NewsNet's Kyan Tara has spent the semester looking into the problem and potential solutions and joins us now in the first of a series of special reports. Kyan.
Ineffective, overcrowded, and unconstitutional. Those are just 3 words used to describe conditions at the Monroe County Jail. Jail staff and the new sheriff say the facility is deteriorating fast and time is running out. A long history of issues for Monroe County escalated with a lawsuit from the American Civil Liberties Union. Let's take a look. Incarcerated people sleep feet apart on the floor. If they're lucky, with a single blanket. Sometimes a plastic cup as a pillow. Called the drunk tank, this is where people are held until they are processed into the Monroe County Jail. Joey has been booked into the jail 31 times. Worst of all, he says, the smell of sewage.
I've seen people sleeping next to the toilet, and somebody would go to use the restroom and they would just get like peed on because there's no room to lay down or sit.
Even the new sheriff agrees.
It's going to be very serious. Please act now. Start the process. Don't sacrifice good for perfect. Don't do that.
The Monroe County Community Justice Response Committee has met bi-weekly with the jail on its agenda for nearly 2 years. The meetings can be tense.
Sorry, I don't think we need that tone. I don't think we need that tone. I don't need the tone, but I also...
And issues complex. Land availability, relocation of a potential new jail, and community buy-in. A 2008 ACLU lawsuit against the jail presents a harsh reality. The ACLU maintains the inadequate jail conditions are unconstitutional.
It has hindered your ability to solve this problem. And there's a very basic solution, which is you have to build a new jail.
A 2020 incarceration study commissioned by Monroe County has made one thing clear. Ultimately, the current jail is failing and cannot ensure the constitutional rights of incarcerated people.
Right now, that jail is deteriorating at a fast rate. We got to find a location and we got to start.
Time is running out for this facility. The ACLU lawsuit over jail conditions is subject to a settlement agreement, which will be expiring next year.
And what will happen then?
Well, you know, this lawsuit could be extended or a new one could be filed, and there is not a lot of agreement with everyone on how to move forward. Next week, I'll actually be back to take a look at how the lack of health care is really at the core of this issue.
And we'll look forward to that report. Thanks, Kyan. People arrested for domestic violence may have to spend triple the amount of time in jail if a new law is passed. Senate Bill 158 would mean people charged with domestic battery have to spend at least 24 hours in jail before posting bail. That's 3 times the current 8-hour minimum. Experts say 8 hours just isn't enough time to get victims help before the perpetrators are released, especially if it happens at night when most shelters and programs are closed.
If you ride scooters in Bloomington, you may soon have to follow some new rules and regulations. Recommendations include required educational quizzes for riders, shortened hours of operation, and fines for companies with incorrectly parked devices. The city also wants to build separate corrals specifically for scooters. The recommendations focus on rider safety and accessibility. They are a direct response to community concerns about late-night crashes, one of them which ended in the death of an IU student.
Now to the coverage of an annual IU tradition. The 11th IU Powwow attracted hundreds of visitors for the 12-hour event. The powwow gathers people from multiple Native tribes in Indiana, a state named after Native Americans. They showcase their traditional dances and songs as well as shared culturally significant food and crafts. The powwow is open to the public and is meant to educate and include non-natives. It also encourages connection between members of different tribes.
We all come together for so many reasons. Like, I'm here because I want to reconnect with my culture and get to know people locally and have that sort of community, but it's also good that like other people who maybe are not Indigenous can come and learn about like all of our different cultures and who we are.
If you would like to support the IU Traditional Powwow, you can make a donation at IU First Nations Education and Cultural Center at firstnations.indiana.edu/give.
An iconic Bloomington ale house of 50 years has closed, but it has a surprising new owner. Bear's Place was purchased by the Indiana University Foundation. The ale house announced the closure on their Instagram. IU reportedly bought Bear's Place along with 2 other properties in a deal that was over $3 million and was made in cash. The IU Foundation has not yet announced what they have in store for the building, but fans of food and karaoke hope those traditions don't go away.
Coming up on sports, IU softball is on a long winning streak, and we'll tell you just how long and why it matters.
And an illness sends legendary IU coach Bob Knight to the hospital. We'll tell you how long he was there and why his son Pat reached out to former players. IU NewsNet Sports coming up next. Welcome back to IU NewsNet. We have Evan Gerke in studio with the latest on sports. What's going on?
Thanks, Ashton. We're going to start with the former IU legend. Indiana head coach Bob Knight was hospitalized over the weekend and is now resting at home. Knight, who won 3 championships at IU over 29 seasons, was admitted to the hospital Friday with an acute illness. Former Indiana players received a message updating them on Knight's status. Knight's son Pat released a statement Monday saying Knight was released from the hospital and thanking fans for their support. Indiana softball just can't lose. Indiana swept Ohio State over the weekend and beat Western Kentucky on Tuesday, setting a program record with its 22nd consecutive victory. The Hoosiers are red hot, improving their record to 29-9 and are currently ranked number 19 in the country. Indiana leads the Big Ten and will look to extend its streak with 3 games at Minnesota this weekend, but head coach Shonda Stanton said the team is only looking ahead.
That's my job, to make sure that that edge is set where, again, we have not done anything with the exception of set a streak, and that's fun. Winning's fun, but we want a series.
Your next chance to catch the Hoosiers at home is Tuesday against Louisville. Indiana softball isn't the only team winning. Baseball is too. Indiana took 2 of 3 this weekend in its series against Penn State, including a 22-11 victory Sunday in the rubber match. The Hoosiers have won 10 of their last 12 games, improving to 20-9 on the season, and sit tied for first in the Big Ten. Indiana returns to Bart Kaufman Field, where it is 15-0 on the year for a 3-game set against Iowa starting Friday. With the Little 500 less than a month away, riders are getting a rush of media coverage for the race. Both men and women's teams went into Hayes Track Stadium to speak with Little 500 reporters about their teams, their stories, and how it feels to qualify in what's called the world's greatest college weekend. There are stories of strength and dedication from each rider involved. This is the first year the media school collaborated with the Student Foundation to speak with teams at the track and hear what they have to say about the event.
I'm so happy that we have this. I feel like it allows the fans to get a little bit closer to the riders and seeing how much dedication they put into the race, all the behind the scenes, some of the things that they won't see given that the track is so far away from campus.
You can buy tickets to watch the races in person on April 21st and the men's on April 22nd at iusf.indiana.edu. And now onto the court. Indiana men's tennis heads into a big weekend with 2 important league matches. The Hoosiers are currently 12-8. 11 of their wins are from playing at home, and a majority of their losses are away matches. The Hoosiers will take another swing at playing on the road, competing against Nebraska and Wisconsin this coming weekend.
Yep, so excited for two road matches this weekend against Nebraska and Wisconsin. Had an up and down season so far, kind of struggled on the road, so hoping we can go out there and get 2 Big Ten road wins. It'll be very important for our team heading into the Big Ten tournament in a few short weeks.
The team will leave today for Nebraska and return Sunday from Wisconsin. Hope we can come back with 2 wins. And that's it for sports, but one more piece of news. Trayce Jackson-Davis officially ended his Indiana career. The legendary player who leads the program in rebounds and blocks all time declared for the NBA draft.
And it'll be exciting to see where him and Jalen could possibly end up. Thank you so much.
And one more thing before we go. Things are starting to bloom in Bloomington. Landscapers have begun the work to remove old winter mulch and replace it with fresh flowers. Starting at the sample gates, the flowers range from maroon and white to yellow and purple. The transition helps to make a spring feel to campus and to welcome visitors to IU. The smell isn't the most pleasant, blame the mulch, but it's definitely a sight to see.
Especially with how crazy the weather's been, seeing those flowers.
Definitely lucky to be here on campus, for sure. And that's all for IU NewsNet for now. We have a behind-the-scenes student production team in the control room and working in the studio for this broadcast. We thank them, and we thank you for watching. I'm Lucy Kellison.
And I'm Ashton Hackman. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IU NewsNet. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.